Hi, this is Hatim Kheir, counsel for the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, with the update for Day 18 of the Public Order Emergency Commission hearings. Today, the Commission heard from two witnesses, Mayor Andrew Dilkens, who's the Mayor of Windsor, and Interim Deputy Chief Jason Crowley, who is, at the time of the protest, he was a superintendent in charge of investigative services for the Windsor Police Service. Some of the important pieces of evidence, in my opinion, that we heard about today. Mayor Dilkens described that the concern around the protest at the Ambassador Bridge was the integration. For example, he highlighted the integration of the supply chain between auto parts manufacturers on both sides of the border in Windsor and Detroit. And he explained that they, both on both sides, there's companies that rely on the movement of goods across the border, and that it's important for the economy. He explained how the city of Windsor obtained an injunction. They were actually an intervener in the application for the injunction, supporting a request that was being made by an association representing auto parts manufacturers. He explained that, in his view, the value of obtaining the injunction was that it sent a signal that the city was doing everything that it could. Something I want to draw your attention to is that I would say the Justice Center's position at this is one of the bigger points, is that he said that on February 11th, there was no concern that the city would have the city and the police would have the resources that they need to clear the protest. And then, in fact, by the end of the day on February 13th, I think he said by midnight, they had cleared the protest. So that's before the federal declaration of emergency. He did say that, in his view, there was a concern about protesters returning, and so he made some comments that the emergency powers played a role in preventing that. However, it does go to show that they were able to clear the protest before they had those federal emergency powers. He did also describe the protest as a national security concern, though he qualified it with the word economic, so a national economic security concern. On that point, Antoine Dailly, Council for Citizens for Freedom, a group which represents protesters that were at the Ambassador Bridge, put to him other examples of impediments that happen to travel across the bridge. So, for example, construction, other protests, and a yearly marathon. In re-examination, he did make a point of distinguishing the marathon, saying that it's a smaller disruption and it's planned so people know how to work around it. Something that came out of Interim Deputy Chief Crowley's evidence was that the police created a zone of exclusion, or actually I think his terms were a zone of control, when clearing the protest at the bridge. And so, for example, he was shown a video where, as police were clearing protesters off, they arrested a peaceful protester who was sitting on the ground. That's notable because this is an example of an exclusion zone, essentially. It's something we've heard about when looking at hearing from police in the response in Ottawa. And it's one of the powers that was used under the Emergencies Act. And so this is an example of an exclusion zone being created without the need for federal emergency powers. So those were some of the highlights from today in my view. Tune in tomorrow for the next update on the next day of hearings. Thanks, and talk to you then.